Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Guys. I'm your host, Sport Cat, and we have a great show lined up for you tonight. I will be joined by my lovely two paranormal assistants, as always, Miss
Cheers,
Cheyenne,
everybody.
Skull, and Amanda. Let me get this out of the way here.
Cheers.
I'm just drinking water. Good Lord. All right. Well, I don't
Get
want
with the program, Glenn.
Well, as you've told me many times, I'm a little slow. So I've got our guest backstage, Matthew. Matt is author of several books, and he's, let's just let him tell us about it. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
A short biography?
Well, you could probably do it better than me, so that's why I was like, I'm not going to mess this up. I don't want to upset my guest.
Okay.
How many books have you written all totaled, sir? By the way, I meant to ask that earlier.
I'm 40,000 words into a new one now, and I think it's number 40 altogether.
Wow.
I've done more than fiction. I've been a ghostwriter, and I've done other people's memoirs. I wrote a book on speech writing once that I'd never done anything with. I think you have to work for a president before you can actually publish a book like that. And a lot of short stories that I've compiled into collections and then put them up on Amazon, which is good because you get paid twice. You get paid by the magazine. When you get the rights back, you get paid by Amazon, which in my case is necessary because I'm not very wealthy.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yep.
But beyond books, I was a professional speechwriter for 30 years, and I must have written 2,000 speeches. Some of them, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club things, and others, huge things at leadership conventions of political parties, and big one in Parliament once in Canada. Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's it. I've made my living at this since I think I got my first paycheck in 1971.
Do not say it, Cheyenne.
It wasn't very big. It was like $8, but there you go.
Hey, well, that's better than nothing. And
yeah.
I wasn't thought of then.
Yeah.
So when you said that, the first thing that sprung to mind, I don't know if you remember the TV show West Wing.
Yes.
That when you were talking about writing them for politicians and things, that was some of the scenes that flashed in front of my mind. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, how cool that would be.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I'm Canadian, so it's in the Canadian context. But in my 20s, I was a special assistant to the Minister of Justice and to the Minister of Environment in Ottawa in the Pierre Trudeau days, and got to see the corridors of power, all that kind of thing, such as they were.
Yeah,
well, amazing.
What's the saying about what is I've forgot about making the sausage? It's good to have the sausage, but you don't like to see how it's made or something like that. And I'm butchering it.
Yeah,
I know.
You can eat it, but you don't want to see it getting made. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. It's the way politics are. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I understand. So,
well, I grew up as what they politely call the working poor in Ontario, Kitchener, Ontario. Of course, that is not an accurate description because you're always poor, but sometimes there's no work. But it's given me a spread of experience. I mean, I've put this in writing somewhere once. I've flown in private jets, and I've drunk champagne in the executive suite of corporations, billion-dollar corporations. And I've also been a teenager with $2 in my pocket, hitchhiking 500 miles from home. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, in our country, that would qualify you to be president. So
just about anybody can, I think, by what I've seen. Yeah.
That's kind of what we're beginning to think too. So you were telling us that this latest novel is a derivative from your previous works. Is that how?
Yeah. Yeah. well, let me step back as far as you have to go. About 70 years ago, an absolutely brilliant young science fiction writer, American science fiction writer called Jack Vance, who later became a grandmaster of sci-fi and all that. He put out a book of collected stories that made a kind of episodic novel. And it was about a very, very far future, old Earth, when everybody's waiting for the sun to go out and it's all over. Magic has come back, science has collapsed. There's no real order to anything. And the whole population seemed to be anti-heroes, with occasional good ones here and there who get into trouble. And the publisher didn't like Jack Vance's title for this work, and they put their own on, and that was The Dying Earth. And that became, Vance wrote a number of stories and books set in that milieu, that universe. And it became a subgenre of fantasy and science fiction. It is sort of science fantasy. It bridges both. And I, like many people who get into this business of writing science fiction fantasy, are absolutely wowed by Jack Vance. And that ranges from people like George R. Martin down to Glenn Cook and, Abercrombie, a whole lot of people. In fact, we were all put into an anthology about 10 or 15 years ago called Songs of the Dying Earth, which was edited by George Martin and Gardner Dozois, the late Gardner. I miss him. And it was a bestseller. It was a big hit. And every one of us who wrote in that, who were invited to write, by the way, when they invited me, I said, try and stop me. It was the biggest thing that had ever happened to me at that point. But every one of us who wrote added a paragraph or two after the story of how we discovered Vance and what an effect it had on him and how it lasted, or on us, rather. And it was very much the same. It was all people like 12, 13, 14 years of age and some older siblings' book or magazine. In my case, it was Galaxy magazine in '62. A story called The Dragon Masters just bowled me over. And I can think of, no, I can't think of anybody except maybe Gene Wolfe who had as much effect on me as a science fiction writer, fantasy writer, as Jack Vance. And so I'm continuing and extrapolating what he started. And I have this world which is similar very much to his Dying Earth, without actual overlap. And I call it a world of wizards and walled cities. And the way I think of it is like Renaissance Italy, the city-states of Rome and all of them. And except with magic, you've got wizards. And the wizards tend to be pretty thorny. They're not gentle souls out of Ursula K. Le Guin. They tend to be a little crazy, and some of them more than a little crazy. And they're totally focused on their own stuff. They don't care about anybody else and can be dangerous to annoy one. Like you might end up with your hands where your feet are and vice versa, just for fun.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Anyway, so I started off after the Dying Earth anthology. I found that the editor of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction was very happy to have me write stories set in Vance settings. And so I wrote lots and lots and lots of them. I think I've had a total of 43 appearances in fantasy and science fiction, which is not a record, but it's admirable, I think. It takes
Very
me
much
back
so.
every now and then. Yeah. And I went from writing short stories, became episodic novels, to writing straight out novels. And fortunately now, I've just reached the point in the past couple of years where I get enough money out of Amazon and Patreon, where people are kind enough to give me a few bucks every month, that I can actually just sit down and write novels instead of having to write stories, wait for them to give me the rights back, and then put them out as Amazon stuff. And so far it's working. I mean, yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing. A lot of people
I'm
would be
amazed
very
by it.
happy to be in that position.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it helped that for the past 17 years, I haven't paid any rent or mortgage or utilities because I was a traveling house sitter going around the world, living in other people's houses and using their electricity and their Wi-Fi and so on.
You've just been
And
really
I'm-
smart about it.
Yeah.
Well, it was a combination of smart and desperate. You see,
But if it works,
it worked, but things change. My main market when I was a speechwriter in British Columbia was the CEO of a freestanding major corporation. But then along came NAFTA, and one by one, these big corporations were bought up by American firms or other foreign firms. I mean, one of the biggest forest companies went to a New Zealand company, and they would install a vice president to run it. And that vice president was not like a CEO who had a huge ego and as much money as he wanted to spend on speeches. So I found myself 20 years ago, everything just starting to dwindle, which meant what I would have to do is go to Toronto, get a job with somebody like Inco, International Nickel, and wear a suit and tie and go to work at certain times every day and have to say yes, sir, and no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I haven't had a job since 1979. And I really, even in my 50s, I could not have gone back to doing jobs. So I had to find a way, and the way I found was house sitting, which I recommend to people. It's a good way to see the world. I've now lived in 12 countries.
Wow.
And
Wow.
not lived as a tourist, but as, in some village somewhere, shopping at where the people shop and learning a language. I went to Italy not knowing anything but arrivederci and spaghetti, but I gradually picked it up.
Yeah.
So it's been, all in all, an interesting life.
Yeah.
And there's not very much that I regret.
Not at all. What an experience.
Yeah. Oh, I've had
So
lots more. I once
with-
fought a forest fire. Yeah. I was
So
younger.
how many languages do you speak then?
Well, I'm good in English. I can get by in French, parlo italiano, rudimentario, and ein bisschen Deutsch. But don't ask me anything in German because I'll just say, ich weiß nicht. I don't know.
It's
And
better
when
than
I
I'm
was 15
doing. So
when I was 15, I did Esperanto for a summer, but never having anybody to talk it with, I forgot it all. I just know that the nouns end in J. Anyway,
wow.
That's amazing.
Well, it's also probably given you the life experiences that you can transfer into your works too.
yes, and that is actually useful. I mean, because what I do, I'm not a plotter. I don't outline. I just create a character, and then I feel that character. I sort of become that character in a pale shade, and then we go from there. And because of the things that I've done and so on, I mean, I've lived in a log cabin in the winter with water hauled from a lake that turned out to be bad water, and a wood stove to keep you heating when it's minus 40 outside, which is an experience all on its own. So if I have to have a character get into something like that, I know what it's actually like. I also know how very powerful people, ministers, CEOs, and so on, leaders of political parties, how they behave behind closed doors. So if I have to write a king and his court and his courtiers, I can just extrapolate that, what I've experienced, to that, because I was a fly on the wall all the time. Like little things. I was thinking of this the other day. I was writing dozens of speeches for a guy who was head of a big corporation, a gas utility in British Columbia. Very nice man. And he wanted to make an impression on his peers. So he hired me to write speeches, and he went all over the place giving these interesting philosophical speeches. But I would be sitting there sometimes with him and his senior vice presidents talking about something. and I'm the fly on the wall in case they need me to write something. And one thing I noticed, when the discussion was going on and the boss had something to say, he didn't wait for anybody to stop talking. He started talking and everybody fell quiet. And I imagine the medieval king was just the same.
Yep.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I am with Cheyenne. So
He falls quiet when I start talking.
absolutely.
Work on it. That's it.
What?
Did you visit a specific place that led you to write the books based on the location that they're written in?
Let me think. Yes. I had a mystery out from Doubleday, Canada in 1997 called Downshift. And it was about a freelance speechwriter who lived in the same city that I did on Vancouver Island and got involved in politics and the mafia and so on, which was exactly my own life, except mine was stepped down slightly. Didn't have that much to do with organized crime, just a little bit. That was people defrauding other people on the Vancouver Stock Exchange, which was notorious for it. And they would have me write stuff, the material to convince people to empty their bank accounts. And then I wrote a sequel to that with the same character. And there should have been a third one, but it didn't work out with Doubleday. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely exactly where I was and how I did it. Other things, well, the feel of foreign locations when you're living there, when you're not in a hotel and going to a restaurant, but you're actually there doing whatever everybody else does, more or less. The feel of that seeps into some of the things I've written, because I know what it's like to be a stranger in a strange land. And I often do that kind of thing to my characters. I put them in unpleasant, uncomfortable situations, because that's how you make stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some sense of how they're feeling. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's fascinating. And so I always ask a lot of our authors, and it sounds like you do it. You live the character in your book. You don't start out with, I'm going from point A to point Z. You kind of start out and then just kind of through your own experience.
Let it take you.
Yeah, the characters grow organically out of me, out of the guy in the back of my head is how I usually describe it. And I don't really have a lot of control over that. It's the characters make the story, and in a sense, they tell the story. I'll give you an example which has a paranormal aspect to it. When I was a teenager, I loved a writer called Thorne Smith, who wrote comic fantasies involving ghosts and ancient gods come to life and getting drunk. Everybody was getting drunk all the time. It was written during Prohibition. Thorne Smith. There's an E on the end of Thorne, and I recommend, if you can find him these days with Amazon, you can find anything, or books. I strongly recommend, if you want to read something screamingly funny, get his stuff. And I was, as I say, I was very big on that when I was a teenager. And I was sitting around thinking, well, it's time to write another book, about 3-4 years ago now. And I thought, I know, I'll do a Thorne Smith ghost story about a burglar who gets haunted by a ghost. And I chose a burglar because I know things about crime, because a certain amount of crime ripples through my family. When you're working poor and crime kind of meld together a little. I like to say I'm the white sheep of my family. But I sat down and I got started. I started a scene. This guy's gone out to investigate a mansion that's been sealed up since the 1950s. It was built as a fortress by a guy who expected a nuclear war. And unfortunately, they built it on the site of a former insane asylum, as we used to call them, in which a woman who had married into a family that didn't want her, and then her husband died, had a crooked judge put her in there. And the baby that she was carrying when she was taken in, when it was born, they grabbed it off her, and she had no idea what happened to it. She died in the insane asylum, and then she haunted it. And then when they tore it down and built the mansion, well, she haunted that too. And the moment the the rich guy, he made his fortune in the early days of television because he bought a distributorship. He just locked everything up, took his family, and ran away, leaving a house full of art and furniture and all kinds of stuff. And I thought, this is a great setting for a funny story. Poor burglar comes in to clean the place out. He gets haunted by a ghost who leaves with him. But you know what happened? The characters made the story, not me. As I went on and developed it, it ceased to be a funny book at all. And it became this kind of sweetheart drama about two people wounded by life, the burglar and the ghost, who find healing in each other. And also there's a great big mystery is, what happened with the kid? We grew up to be something, and what about the family? Where'd the money go? All of that. And then I bring in mercenaries and blood diamonds and all kinds of good stuff to keep the ball rolling. But it had absolutely nothing to do with the idea that I started with. And yet it's a nice little book. It's called Ghost Dreams. You can get it on Amazon, or you can as a hardcover, or I've got the rights for the ebook. So if you buy it as a Kindle, you're actually paying me. That's nice. Anyway, it's a lovely little book. I think I'm really quite proud of it. And yet, it all belongs to the guy in the back of my head, who feeds me about 1,000 words a day, and I type them out, polish them a little, and say, okay, that's it for today. What's on tomorrow? And then something comes. And if I get to a point where I don't know what happens, I take a nap. When I wake up, I know what happens. I'm absolutely at the mercy of my unconscious. Yeah.
That's great. I've never heard anyone put it that way, but that's amazing. What, if you don't mind me ask, did you have formal training in this or teaching or?
Nope. I always wanted to be a novelist, but there was no way you could at 19 become a novelist in the way I saw it. So I was going to university off and on. It's very hard to go to university if you don't have any money at all, because there weren't that many scholarships thrown around back, in the mid 60s. So I started writing reviews and features for the university student newspaper. And once I had a bunch of clippings, I went down to I had an introduction, and I went to the local Vancouver Daily newspaper, the Province, and said, I can write. And they looked at my stuff, said, yeah, you can write. Let's put you out to cover municipal council meetings on Mondays, because there's only one guy to cover them, but we hire people like you to do it. That's where I got my $8 paycheck from, which they didn't reimburse me for the bus fare anyway. Anyway, so I was a journalist. I read a book on mass media, and then I went and became a journalist. And then I did that for a few years, ended up editing a little weekly in Vancouver Island in a mill town. That's a long story too, but I won't tell it. It's painful. Anyway, while I was there, I was just ending my 6-month contract because the guy I was working for were crooks. And in came this fellow who was the campaign manager of the local Liberal candidate, Liberal government of Canada in those days. And he said, the candidate's won, and now he's an MP, and he'd like you to go to Ottawa and write you a newspaper column in his name to send to the press in home writing. And I took a week to make up my mind, finally tossed a coin, because I thought, well, this could be good to be, a novelist. And off I went, drove my wife and my dog and our little orange plant in a Volkswagen Beetle across the country, 2,500 miles. I went to Ottawa, and I was there, and I was doing things that an MP's assistant would do, helping people with pensions. I just had a list of numbers to call and say, this guy needs help. And they'd say, well, we'll help him, because the MP has taken an interest. So I'm there about 6 weeks. I'm writing columns. I'm solving pension problems for people. And then the MP comes in, and he says, well, Parliament is now going to resume. And there's a big speech called a speech from the throne. I knew that. I've been a reporter. And that's where the government sets out all its priorities. And it's traditional when a new parliament sits that they get an MP from the east and an MP from the west who are maiden MPs, brand new, never been there before. And they give the speech seconding and moving and seconding the debate. And he said, I'm seconding the debate. Write me a speech. So I wrote him a speech. I went down to the speaker's office and said, can you show me the kind of speeches they do for this? And he gave me a couple, and I came back and looked at them, said, this is dead easy. You talk half about the government's program and half about where you come from. So I wrote him a speech, one draft. He loved it. He went out, he gave it. All the heavies of the Liberal Party came over and put their arms around him and said, you're going places, kid. He wasn't a kid. He was 40, 50 years old. And from then, everybody kept calling him up and saying, would you come to our meeting and give a speech? And he would say, write me a speech. And I would write a speech. And within a few months, I found myself being headhunted by ministers' offices because they liked a good speechwriter. And that's how I ended up with the Minister of Justice.
Wow.
But I had no formal training at all. I am totally untaught in the realm of speechwriting, but I did it for 30 years. And I was, BC, British Columbia is not a big market, Vancouver and Victoria, the two main cities, but I was the best in there. And I know I can prove I'm the best because we have different political parties in our province. And if you work for one, the others won't touch you. But I have written the winning leadership speeches for conventions, the ones just before they vote, for all three of the BC political parties. And nobody else has ever done that. And nobody else ever will, because one of the parties has collapsed and another one's taken its place. So I'm unique.
Yes.
Bravo.
That's so cool.
That's incredible. It sounds like did you do a lot of research on these? Because it sounds like you were really pulling the person out of them.
No. One thing I understood early on, speeches are not about transmitting information. They're about creating an impression. Mm-hmm. And in fact, some of the greatest speeches ever given, Churchill's fight on the beaches, fight on the landing grounds. There's not a new fact in there at all. It's all old facts, but it's magnificent oratory, and rhetoric. So once you know that, this is what my analysis would be, and it was all just impressionistic. Here's the speaker, here's the audience, here's the context of the speech, the surrounding issues or whatever, maybe just the tone of the times. What impression can that speaker make on that audience on this day? What's the best we could hope for? And then I would write to create that impression. And that was all there was to it. I'm sure there are many great complications in formal rhetoric, but I've never been exposed to any of them. I just write speeches.
Well, in the bigger picture, that's probably better. I mean, honestly.
Well, it was for me because I made a living at it. How many freelance writers can, make a living with a wife and 3 kids to support?
Yeah. I interviewed the Voice of America reporter for the White House, and he would tell tales of basically similar to you, but he was on the other end recording them. And so, of course, he chases the president around our country. So that's so cool, though. And did you get to travel with him and his party, or was it separate once you left that?
I traveled with the ministers when I was staff in Ottawa. Otherwise, no. You see, a speechwriter is a ghostwriter. When there's the big, everybody stands up to applaud at the end of the speech. The speaker does not say, and I want to say a great, word of gratitude to my speechwriter sitting over there. No, that doesn't happen.
No, I did all that. All that came from my own head.
Yeah. Well, that was also the trick that I had, the knack. I could write in the voice of the person who was speaking. I get the voice in my head, just like I do with my characters. I become that voice and I write that. And so I would do speeches for less than formal occasions, where it's just looked like the guy had some notes and was looking down and then talking in his natural voice. And a lot of those people got credit for being wonderful natural speakers when they were actually reading what I'd given them word for word.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, they did pay me enormous amounts of money by, BC standards. At the end of it, I was making, and this is like 20 years ago almost, I was getting $200 an hour Canadian.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of money. Yeah. In
Yeah.
a good year, I'd make $100,000, and I'd only work 2 hours or 2 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you
Suited
loved
me.
every minute of it. It wasn't work, was it? You enjoyed it every day.
Well, don't forget, I'm a boy from the poor part of town. I'm a social democrat. I vote for the Canadian equivalent of a Labour Party. And I wrote for right-wing people because most CEOs are pretty conservative. So sometimes it would leave a bad taste in the mind. But, I had a wife and kids to support. My dad died
It
on
paid
welfare.
the bills.
Yeah. Anyhow,
When did you break free and start doing your first novel stuff?
in the mid-90s, my wife got a small inheritance from her father. Well, not that small, but he was a plumbing, heating, and electric contractor, did quite well. So I took about 7 or 8 months off, and I wrote 2 crime novels, 2 thrillers, which got me a New York agent, my God, which, is not easy to do even then. Unfortunately, she had a family tragedy within weeks of my signing with her, and she just dropped everything, including my books, and nothing happened with them.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I let her go, and then I shouldn't have done that, because then I discovered one of the truths of having agents. If you got a book and an agent has taken it out and failed to sell it, no other agent is going to take it. So I had 2 pretty good crime novels or thrillers, which sat on my hard drive until I self-published them myself. Yeah. Actually, I almost had a deal with one of them, but no. That's one of the bad things that's happened to me as a professional, as an author. Another was that my very first book came out. It was a funny comic fantasy, very much influenced by Jack Vance. It's called Fool's Errand. And it was picked up by a Canadian publisher, which always before had done school textbooks. And they were now branching out into young adult fantasy. And I was the second novel to come under that. Unfortunately, the company was part of the Robert Maxwell empire, which was mostly newspapers, but also publishing around the world. It's called Maxwell Macmillan Canada. And some months before my book came out, Maxwell had taken his long permanent swim off the back of his yacht because it turned out he'd looted his employees' pension funds and was going to be prosecuted. And then everything started to fall apart. And the week that my book came out from Maxwell Macmillan Canada, it was being taken over and dissolved, first by Paramount, and then by Viacom, which took over Paramount. And they had no interest in the fiction line, the 2 books that had been launched. So my book went right to the warehouse, and there it stayed until finally a very good fan, I won't embarrass him by naming him, he put up the money for me to buy all the paperbacks that were left, and that got the rights back to me, and then I could sell it to Time Warner Books, which I did.
Wow.
But that was remarkable. My book's out. There it goes.
So,
Yeah.
so they literally held the book hostage. I mean, not just on paper. They had the physical book.
Yeah. Hardcovers and paperbacks. The
Oh my
hardcovers they managed to sell to libraries. That was actually what they were for, the hardcover edition. And the paperbacks just sat in the back of the warehouse. There weren't a
Wow.
whole lot of them. I think some of them probably got dumped or trashed or whatever. But there was about 100 and something of them left. No, maybe about 300 altogether. It's a lot of boxes. And
Yeah,
then my
it's just-
fan bought them.
It just makes me feel like they're so petty.
Oh,
Or is it
you want
just,
to
or is that
hear
just
petty?
business?
Oh, I'll tell you, petty. I mentioned
Okay.
that thriller Downshift, all right, came out in 97. Well, I'd met an author who was very famous in Canada as a mystery author. And she had put me in touch with her editor at Doubleday Canada in Toronto. And the editor looked at the book I'd written and said, I want to buy this book. And I said, great. And then I waited and waited and waited for, the offer and the check and the contract. And it didn't come. And the reason why is the marketing department at Doubleday Canada wanted to go more literary, because literary fiction was on a big rise in those days, the English Patient and all that. And they didn't want to sign another genre author. And it took 5 months for the editor to win the argument. And then she signed me, and then the book was on its way in the process. And she said, write a sequel. And I was writing the sequel about 75% of the way through when the editor went to work for a cookbook publisher, leaving me in the hands of a marketing department that had never wanted me. And they immediately cut my print run, and they gave my promotion budget to another author who was the son of a famous actor. And not much happened. There was one ad in BC Book World, which is a local paper for books in BC. And it was so badly designed, you couldn't read the title of the book. I think that was deliberate too. And then in the end, it came out, and I did what I could to sell copies and managed to sell some. But that was it. I had about 6 weeks in the stores. And months later, the only person I was still in touch with at Doubleday was the promotional person, the PR people. And I got in touch with her, sent her an email, and said, can I buy some of the remaindered books? $1 each, that kind of thing. And she said, no, we didn't remainder any. As the returns came in, we just sent them to the pulper. I was collateral damage on the war between marketing and that editor who left. And they couldn't do anything to her after she'd been driven out to the cookbook place. So they took it out on me, or it took it out on my book, really. So
Wow.
that's why there are very few copies of that book around. And if you find one, it's probably valuable. Tell you the most amazing part of that. In 2011, we went to a remote part of Italy where a British couple had bought an olive farm, a fattoria, and we were going to house sit for them for a year. And I was in the little cottage, a former dovecote that they put us in, and there was all books there that tourists had left behind. And I was looking through them, and I found a copy of Downshift. Now, we're thousands of miles away from Vancouver Island, but here it is. And I took it to the guy who owned the place, the man. I said, look at this. And he said, oh, yeah, I bought that when I was backpacking through Canada. I really liked it, so I kept it. At that point, there were maybe 700 copies of that book in the world. And I found one in the most remote spot in Italy, which gotta mean something.
Yeah. When he brought you in to take care of his stuff, did he know who you were as far as the author of that book?
No, actually, no. He knew I was a guy called Hughes, but I don't think he made the connection at all, because he was surprised when I brought him my book. He didn't bring it to me and say, hey, you wrote this. I brought it to him and said, hey, I wrote this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
An unusual life. Yeah.
That's amazing. Though.
Yeah.
Especially when if he was backpacking through, it probably made a difference in him, you know? So,
Well, he
Yeah.
he liked the book a lot, and he kept it. Went all the way back to England, and then bought an old post office van, loaded all his stuff in it, and drove that into Italy, bringing that book with him.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Well, it's a pretty good book, you know.
well, not to brag. Well,
Must be.
it's a small world, and you just don't ever realize it. But that's that's pretty small. I mean, as far as
Yeah.
That'd make me feel pretty
Wow.
darn good.
Yeah.
absolutely. What is, out of all of your books and all of your publications, what is the one that you're, I don't want to say the most proud of, but the one that is the
here we
most of you that the most of you that you're the
Okay. I've written one historical novel. It's called What the Wind Brings. And it's based on something that I read in a university textbook, I think, or some kind of reading I was doing in university, based on a footnote I read. And I thought that would make a great historical novel. And in those days, I was interested in being a historical novelist. But I found it very hard to research because it had happened in Ecuador in the mid 1500s, and almost all of the scholarship was in Spanish language, South American academic journals, and my Spanish is not good enough for that. You know, I'm donde está la pluma de mi tía kind of Spanish. Should have added that to the list before. Anyway, came the turn of the century, and American academics became interested in these events and began to write about it, and then I could research it. So I started to do that, and I applied to the Canada Council for the Arts, and they liked it. They gave me $25,000 to write the book, which was pretty damn good. So I wrote it, and it's about a small cargo of African slaves who were shipwrecked on the jungle coast of Ecuador and melded in with the local indigenous population, who had been very much decimated by the Spanish, using their area as a staging ground to go up and conquer the Inca. So they created this new culture, this new society, and the conquistadors up in Quito tried to reduce them, which was the term they used in those days, reduce them back to servitude. And together, the Africans and the native people, they outfought and outthought the Spanish. And spoiler alert, they ended up independent forever, for centuries even. So I wrote that, and I didn't have an agent then, but I did know some people who were starting up a small press in British Columbia, and I sold them the book, and they brought it out. It has not done well, so I got the rights back because they're friendly people. I like them a lot. They run a magazine called Pulp Literature, which is quite good. Comes out quarterly. I recommend it. If you get the latest edition, I'm in it. That's how much I recommend it. Anyway, What the Wind Brings is the first Canadian title to ever win the Cross-Border Endeavour Award, which is for authors of speculative fiction in Alberta, British Columbia, Montana, Idaho, I think, Oregon, and Washington State, and Northern California. Cascadia, in other words. It's been around since like 20 odd years. It's been this award, and it's always won by an American until I came along. And I'm a little proud of that as a patriotic Canadian. And it's a very fine book. The reason it's speculative fiction is because one of the main characters is a shaman, female, and well, she's actually what they used to call hermaphrodite, transsexual, whatever the term is. I don't know anymore. She's both and neither. but she actually has shamanistic powers. She can go to the underworld and the overworld, and she can heal people, do all kinds of interesting stuff. And she's kind of the linchpin of the story. So that's why it was reviewed in Locus magazine and got a very, very fine review from Russell Letson, who's a well-regarded critic of fantasy and science fiction. Yeah. Anyway, that's the
Wow.
book I'm proud of. Right now, it's in the hands of an American agent who is looking to see if he can find a place for it, along with another historical novel that I've written the first 20,000 words of. Again, based on something I read when I was very young. It's that shortly before he died, Alexander the Great sent a ship to circumnavigate Africa because he wanted to start conquering that next. And then he died and his empire fell apart, and nobody knows what happened to that ship. So I thought I would find out. So that would be the next big thing I'll do.
Oh, that's cool.
Again, I put in for a grant from the Canada Council, and I'm hoping they'll give me the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sounds like an amazing story.
Yeah.
it is an amazing story, and it's true.
Yeah.
I think Pulp Literature Press still has some hardcovers and paperbacks of it. So if you get in touch with them, you can get a copy. I won't get
Nice.
any royalty because I got away with it, did away with it. But it is a fine book, and it is, I hubristically call it my magnum opus. And it is the one I want to be remembered for. I don't expect I'll be around much longer. I'm 75. If I make 80, that'll be quite something in my family. So that's the one I want people to read, 50 years from now and say, oh, man, that's a good book. Yeah. Yeah. Who is that guy? Well, I've never heard of him. Yeah.
I think
You've
people
probably
are going to
heard his
remember you.
speeches.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm. What time are we at? Well, we've got a few minutes left. I really should plug my new book,
Absolutely, we
please.
want you to.
which is a bit of a departure for me, and it's set in the Dying Earth setting, wizards and walled cities and magic and stuff like that. But it's there was a character I called Cascor, who was a kind of private eye in that world. And I wrote stories for the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, and they bought them, and then it went along. But there came a point in the narrative where he was in trouble. He was stuck somewhere and needed a rescuer. And I thought, okay, I'll make a rescuer. And at the time, I was very much taken with a woman, a British actress, who appeared frequently on the Graham Norton talk show, chat show, as they say over there. Hilariously funny woman. She's 80 years old now, kind of short, stubby lesbian, very proud of it, and with a mop of gray curls. And she tells absolutely hilarious anecdotes on the Graham Norton show. Go to YouTube. Well, we are on YouTube, and type in Graham Norton and Miriam Margolyam. That's her name.
Yes,
And
from Harry Potter.
Yes, of course, she was in Harry Potter. She was also in Blackadder. She played a religious fanatic aunt who ended up drunk on the floor with him. Wonderful. Anyway,
Yeah,
she's
fabulous.
She's a hoot. Yeah. Anyway, so I created Margolyam, who is, an elderly sorceress who rescued my PI guy, and then got involved with his firm and was part of the team that went around investigating weird stuff in the stories, which I collected and put out as a book just called Cascor. I recommend it too. It's pretty damn good. But I got interested in her as a character. I did an origin story, and I put that on tacked it onto the end of the Cascor collection. And then one of my fans sent me an email, said, I would pay you to write about the process of apprentice magicians going to the Institute for Hermetic Studies and all of that. And I said, okay. All my life, people have paid me to write things for them. So I wrote a story. And I thought, I'll do Margolyam. What happened after the origin story? And I wrote that, and he liked it very much. And then I thought, well, okay, now I got 30,000 words. I might as well finish a novel. So I wrote more episodes, and the outcome is this episodic novel called Margolyam, which I self-published last month. It's selling pretty well for one of mine. I have this small group of people who absolutely love my work, and I absolutely love them for it. So I'm a niche author, but I can rely on them to buy these things, and they're keeping me afloat. So Margolyam is the first 20 odd years of her life. She gets involved she goes to the institute to be an apprentice, but she gets involved in academic politics as a collateral damage. I'm familiar with that. And ends up leaving and going back to her aunt's place in a small town. But then a couple of wizards want her to come and do research with them, because it turns out she's a rare quantity. She's, in my universe, books of magic passed on through generations of wizards develop what you might call personalities. And it's not easy to get them to work with you. But she is the equivalent for books of a horse whisperer. They just roll over on their backs and open up. There you go. And some wizard has said, I've spent 6 weeks trying to find that spell, and you just like that. So that's her thing. That's her shtick. And that gets her into interesting situations and, of course, troublesome situations. And that's what the book's about.
Take my money.
Yeah.
Let me say the name again. Margolyam. 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 And if it leads people, I put it in the introduction, the thing about Miriam Margolyes, and if that leads people to look her up on YouTube, all the better.
How long does it take you to write a book from start to finish?
Used to take me about 3 months. Now it takes me about 4. Although something odd is going on. It's maybe some sort of second childhood or something. I started the one I'm writing now on the day after Labor Day, and I'm 40,000 words into it. I'm using a couple of minor characters from other stories and giving their young years and how they got to be who they were. I think it's going to be called Henchman.
Okay.
Nice.
At any point in time in your career, were you ever influenced by an author by the name of Harry Turtledove by chance?
Oh yeah, I read his ones about the two Rhodians going around the Med. Now he was influenced by a man called Lionel Sprague de Camp, wonderful name, who was actually an archaeologist, and so was his wife, I believe. And he wrote wonderful books like those Turtledove books back in the 50s and 60s. And I want to recommend a couple if there's anybody who likes to read historical novels set in ancient times. There was one called An Elephant for Aristotle. And that was Alexander the Great took this poor cavalryman and his troop and said, take this elephant. They were in India. Take it back to Athens and give it to Aristotle. Aristotle had been Alexander the Great's tutor when he was a young student. And he also gave him a bag of gold and said, take this to another philosopher who is Aristotle's worst enemy. So he said, Aristotle, an elephant, and his worst enemy, the money to keep an elephant. And then the guy has to go all the way through Persia and, across the Alexandrian Empire, which was already falling apart because nobody expected Alexander ever to come back. He just marched off into the east and was never seen again. So that's a wonderful one. An Elephant for Aristotle. If you start with that, it's just a hoot, and you'll say, "Oh, this is Harry Turtledove," because it's the same tone and the same wonderful balance of adventure and humor.
And well, you can't tell it, but underneath my TV stand is almost every Harry Turtledove book.
Are you reading the alternative history stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not big on that, but I do love the ancient stuff. My goodness.
Yeah. I
In
got
fact,
a hook on Guns from the South.
if I get to write the Alexander book, I'm going to filch stuff from Harry because it's so good.
Well, if you get a chance to get in touch with him, I would love to have him on the show. So
Oh,
that would
well,
be a big one.
I've met him at I met him at Worldcon, I think, in San Diego. Or was that World Fantasy? I met him at one of those things back before the pandemic put
Yeah.
the kibosh on travel. Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, we always ask, and if you want to share, if you have any type of paranormal story.
Oh yes. Okay. Well, okay. When I was 19, I moved in with my elder brother in an old house, creaky old house, down by the Fraser River in Burnaby, which is a suburb of Vancouver. And I took an upstairs bedroom in which I found an old bamboo bookcase, not very big, but I had books and I put them in there. And I had a sleeping bag and a mattress on the floor, 19 years of age, and it would have been 70s then. No, 60s still. Okay. And there we lived. The funny thing was this. Sometimes when you were downstairs, you could hear furniture moving upstairs in that room. And the only furniture was that bookcase. And it was pretty damn light, but you could hear clunk, clunk, clunk noises. And also, it was always colder in that room than anywhere else. And I knew that to be one of the signs that, something hinky is going on. Now, it had windows set in panes, and one of them was broken. So I figured that might be the cold coming in, because it was by then fall in Vancouver. But I got a piece of cardboard and taped it over, and it was still just as cold in that room. So one night I was asleep on my bed in my sleeping bag, and I was woken up by the bed shaking, quite hard shaking. And the first thought was, oh, there must be a train going by, because there were tracks a couple of hundred yards away. But there was no train, because I would have heard it going clackety clackety clack over the crossing. And also the bookcase was not moving, just the mattress was moving, shaking. And I don't like being woken up out of sound sleep. So I shouted, "Get out of here!" And it stopped. That's it. That's my story.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, you ran it off. You spooked the ghost.
It was like, whoa,
You scared the
wait a
ghost.
minute.
So I
That's
think maybe a poltergeist left over from the family who used to live there, and I scared it away.
Yeah.
That's Matthew. It's been great having you on. I've enjoyed our time.
Yeah,
And
me too.
You've lived such an adventuresome life. Please come back sometime and keep up with us. I would love that. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably have another new book, the one I'm doing now, in a couple of months.
Okay.
Nice.
I'll get in touch.
Yeah. Very good. We'd love to have you. And if anybody's listening, because we're also on FM, where is the best way to find you?
Oh, my webpage kind of went dormant because of some sort of server upgrade, and I'm told it's going to cost me a couple of grand to get it back again. So I'm just sending people to my Wikipedia page, which is Matt Hughes (writer).
Okay. Yeah. All right. I will remember, Shay, remind me to put that in the show notes for later.
Got it.
Matthew, thank you. I appreciate you being on. You've been great and
have such great stories.
Yeah.
It has been an unusual life.
I'm very fortunate to have met you, so I appreciate it, sir. Have a great night. Keep in touch, and we'll keep in touch through Mickey too. But I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, and we will see you soon.
Okay, take care.
You too.
You too. Thanks.
I'm adopting him.
Oh, he's
That was great.
awesome.
That was great.
I want him to be my
Yay.
grandpa.
God, don't tell him that. He'll never come back. No, thanks, Shay.
It's because I love him.
Great.
Yeah.
You're going to run him off. We did promise that we have a second guest, and we've had Donna on before. She came on to our Green and Guardian show, and she wrote a book. Guillermo, be
Rude.
nice. Be nice. Be very nice.
They're
and by
fun,
the way,
older people.
By the way, the one that accused of being 120 some years old, she's coming back. So there.
Matthew was fantastic, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was.
But I lost my total train of thought. But yeah, we have Donna. Oh, thanks, Guillermo. We have Donna here. She has written a book that is different than the one we interviewed her for before. She did Leo the Lion Learns to Dial 911, if I remember correctly. Donna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I don't think I'm random elderly yet, but maybe I'm.
Well, he's already
just ignore him.
He's already asked that I put up all of his chats because he wants to talk to you. Donna, how have you been?
Any complaints, go to bobbydizzle.com.
How have you been, Donna? It's been a couple months.
It has. It's good to see you all again. I was glad when Mickey got in touch. I was like, oh, good. I know Glenn and the crew. So.
Yeah, it's great. And we had actually on the Friday show, we've talked about your books several times, sending kids that way. And
wow, good.
Because it's such a great thing. And you've transitioned now. You're not only just doing that, you're doing novels. So tell us about that.
Yeah, this is not my first adult novel. Was published on the end of August. It's called Paul is Missing. I actually had the idea like 20 years ago when I was still teaching, and I had jotted down notes, and I just never had time to implement it. And now, and after getting my confidence up from doing the Lester Lyon books, I just decided to pull the trigger and go ahead and like do the whole thing. Took me a long time to do. Editing is a bear. It's really hard to like edit, and it took much longer than I thought it would. But Paul is Missing is the story of a young boy. He's 9 months old. He's stolen from his parents from a grocery store, and he's raised by his captors until he's like 23 years old. Now they're not your captor in the regular sense. They're a family. It's the mom and dad, and they kidnap a baby for their daughter who is recently bereaved, and they want to make her feel better by giving her the child that she lost. So they raise the child for many years. The two families interact in some interesting ways, and I won't tell you any more about that, but the two families interact over the next 20 years. And when Paul, the child, is 23, he finds some papers, and he begins to realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And then he goes on a journey to find his biological family, which he then does as an adult.
Huh.
That sounds really
See the
good.
wheels turning, Cheyenne.
Well, it's like a male normal version of Tangled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes.
That's immediate when I was like, yep. Okay.
There was a news story not too long ago, several months ago, about a boy that was kidnapped and then realized he had been raised by kidnappers, and realized as an adult that, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And then he found his biological family. So
It's crazy.
Wow.
But the freaky part about that is now, like I said, I had the idea for this book, and I had notes from like 20 years ago, because that's when I first got the idea. So you can't say, oh, well, you watched Tangled and then you got the idea, or, oh, you read that newspaper story and then you decided to write this. That's really not the way it went, because I had those notes from all those years ago. So
Wow.
That's
cool.
That's crazy after 20 years to finally come back to a story like that. It's a very full circle moment.
Exactly. And it's all like about hope and resilience, because it's about how the two families cope, and then it's about all the things that the boy goes through, and then in the end, then like he is able to find his biological family. So yeah, it's all about like hope and resilience. And I have to tell you, I'm pleasantly not surprised. I'm pleasantly pleased that I've gotten like 4 really good reviews on Amazon, and now not from my brother's sister's cousin's best friend, from like people that I don't even know, and they've said some very good things about, like, it's well written, it's a very like interesting trajectory what they go through. So yeah, it's made me feel really good. So
Yeah.
Well, it's got to make you feel good inside when you've written something and somebody's enjoyed it. And as we were talking to Matthew, the guy took his book across the world, and he found it later. And so that means something special to you. It has to be. I guess touching would be the best way of describing it. So,
I had a book signing a couple of weeks ago, and now that was a signing for the children's books for Lester Lyon Wants to Roar and Lester Lyon Calls 911. And the coolest thing was it was in a church, so it was like in a community center. And so a lot of people, there were snacks and treats after. So a lot of people were staying around after, having a cookie or something. And many of the children were sitting right down at the tables, and they were reading the book right there. And it was like, wow, look at this. This is amazing.
You made a difference.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You made a difference, and the kids are going to remember that forever. And hopefully they won't call us for silly things. When you were talking about that, I was thinking that now we have, Ancestry.com and DNA 123 and stuff like that. So if that did occur today, how easy it might be to find somebody if they've taken the test, I guess.
Correct.
So, unless you're the government, then they have it all. But
I actually have that in the book, because the way I have the timeline, the whole DNA stuff comes out like when Paul's in college, but it's kind of just come out. And so he tells his mother, who finally, she wasn't even sure, because she had a lot of problems. She wasn't sure that he had been kidnapped, but after the grandmother died, she kind of knew that something was funny with Paul, that he was, that something was wrong. So the Paul comes home from college and is like, oh, there's this new test my roommate wants to try. We're going to do this DNA testing. And she just kind of gets really, really upset about it, because she kind of in the back of her mind knows that, like, oh, wait a minute, this probably isn't a good thing. And he's like, why are you so upset? This has nothing to do with you. I'm paying for it myself. And so that's kind of the only, I kind of try to make that connection there, because yes, it is different now than when like he would have been kidnapped when he was a baby.
That's, yeah. Well, the DNA, they can find so much for it now. And my wife is the genealogy hound. So she's found long lost relatives from way back that she's like, do you know this person? No, I have no idea. So she's into that, and it's interesting, especially when you find out how far out it goes. We, as a joke, my dog, I did one. They have a dog test for dogs. So since she's such big into it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get her. And I did my dog. My dog has like cousins in overseas. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? This dog comes from Georgia.
We did the same thing on ours, but to see like what kind they were, and like for one of them, I was like, see, y'all got gypped the money. They told y'all she was this, she wasn't that.
They have it for cats too, so you can.
Yeah, I did that for my cat Squirt, but it was just kind of like,
I need to do that for my cat. He's a hillbilly from Tennessee, so God knows what I'd find out.
Yeah, they're just like, she's a little bit of everything.
The family stick. So.
Yeah.
Donna, how long did it take you once you started compiling and putting your notes back together to get it to Well, the first publisher, and then did you have your friends read it? Did you have a group read it, or how did you do that?
I started with like a beta reader, which was just one of my friends, and she would just like read 1 or 2 chapters at a time, give me some feedback on that. That's what I started with. She was like, "This is amazing. This is, this is very good." So then after that, I had joined a writers group, and I was kind of almost done with it, but I was doing like my own editing, moving stuff around, adding something, taking it away. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense. I need to change that. And this was a really good writers group. It was virtual, it was online. A lot of the people were in Minnesota. One of my friends is in Minnesota, and she organized the writing group. And so we would talk about, I'd read parts of it. Different people would read parts of their books, and then I'd read mine. And they are the ones who encouraged me to publish, because I was like, no, I need to do more editing. No, I think I need to do that. They're like, no, you need to get it out there to the editor. And then they also said, once you send it to the publisher, it's going to go to like the professional editor. So don't think you have to have every single thing absolutely perfect, because they're going to give you some hints to change things around. So that's exactly what I did. They helped me to pull the trigger, because I could still be sitting here with my papers right now. But they were like, no, come on, you need to submit that. So I submitted it to the publisher. They said, yeah, this is pretty good, but it needs to go to the editor. And that was a very labor-intensive process, because then line by line, the editor went through it. And then some of it, of course, would be grammatical things or just little tweaks. And then some of it would be, well, if this whole section needs to move, or it doesn't like quite make sense. So then it became very, very like labor-intensive, because then you'd work on it, make the changes, send it back, hopefully. And sometimes it was like, okay, good, let's move on. But then sometimes it was like, no, it would come back to you again. So it was really labor intensive. It took me months, 3 months, maybe 4 months. It took me quite a while to get through the editing process.
Bless your patience with that.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, because you want, actually at the end, I said to my husband, I never want to read this story again. I don't ever want to. I'm done with Paul.
Get Paul out of here. Somebody just find him already.
Like a Christmas movie you've seen every year for all of your life. Yep. Well, does that hurt your feelings though, going back and forth like that, or because?
No, because I wanted it to be as good as possible, because you want it to get out there. You want people to like it. You want to get positive reviews. So no, I really didn't take it which is kind of hard for me, because I do tend to take a lot of things personally.
That's what I was thinking for myself. Like, I'd start being like, excuse me.
I would probably break down crying. Like,
what do you mean? This sentence makes perfect sense.
No, I just knew they were trying to make it better. He said it respectfully. He never said, well, this sucks.
No, you suck, buddy.
So it just, we went back and forth, but it was respectful. And so, no, I just felt that he really was trying to help me to make a better book. So, and I think it did become a better book in the end, because like I said, I do have some positive reviews, and several people have said, well written. The first time I got the review that said this was a very well written novel, I was reading it to my husband and I started crying because, oh, that's good.
Yes.
It took 20 years, but it darn well better be good.
I didn't divorce you because of this. So, this was my therapy. Yeah. Have you got any thoughts about another book?
Oh yes, working on it now.
I was going to ask, are you hooked?
Yes, totally. Yeah, once you get started, it's like you can't stop. Yeah, I really enjoy doing it. The whole process now, like I enjoy. And yeah, it's just fun to like put them together, to get them out there. So yeah, this one is called Vegas Goodbye, and I think I have it basically all written, and I finished this afternoon. I've got it from A to B, from the beginning to, I write out of order. I'm like what they call a pantser, which means you write by the seat of your pants. Some people have a really structured outline. Okay, I'm going to work on chapter 3. Right now I'm doing the backstory. I don't do that. I kind of sit down to write and we'll kind of see where it leads. So I might, oh, I think I have an idea for the end. I might write the end, and then the next day I might like, oh, I need more in the beginning. I'm going to write that.
Or you get, oh, here's this idea that I need to add there later, so I'm just gonna write this here, and we'll set that to the side.
Correct. So like I'll go all over the place like that. So what I finished today is like just putting it like together in order, like from the beginning to the end. Now, does that mean like it's all done and ready to go to professional editing? Not on your life, not by a long shot, because I need to read all the way through now and see where my holes are, because I know that there are holes like, oh, wait a minute, I just skipped a year and a half and it doesn't make sense how they were in one place and now they're in Vegas. How did they even get there? So I need to like patch the holes and then just read it through and make sure that it makes sense. So that's where I am now. So
very good.
Yeah, that's it's not about Elvis leaving Vegas, is it? Because he's going to stay there.
Vegas goodbye.
Oh, Vegas goodbye. Okay. Wait a minute. So Elvis isn't leaving Vegas.
Elvis is not in my book. No, Elvis is left.
You can just add like a little tiny Elvis on the cover somewhere just for Glenn.
That's one of the first things when I think of Vegas, I think of. I don't know why. I guess it's from the movie. I've been there 2-3 times. Well, with my company, but I never did see a show or anything. We just basically got to do the strip. So, yeah, if Elvis left before I got to get there and see him, I'd be incredibly heartbroken. So,
we love Vegas. We go to Las Vegas for a vacation almost every year. We have our next one scheduled for December. So.
Oh, nice.
Well, it will be nice in December in Vegas. Well, it'll be warm, but it's still not going to be as bad as July. So
no, I would not go there in July, and especially with the wave they've been having. I mean, that's kind of too much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, so how did this idea come to you for your new one? Was this because the other one you had from way back? Was this something that was either from an offshoot of another book, or is this just you?
It actually came, well, my brand is kind of hope. So all my books, they're all kind of like family or relationship based. And so the people can go through some really awful things, but it's about hope and resilience, because that's like my brand. So no matter how awful what it is they're going through, my books are going to end on like a hopeful note. The way that I got the idea for the Vegas Goodbye is I happened to read an article about Las Vegas because I'm interested in Vegas because we've been there several times. And it talked about how many people go to Vegas to commit suicide. And it's really kind of like a problem that they have in Las Vegas. Now, I mean, I'm sure some of them they got in terrible gambling, which isn't funny. Sure. They got in terrible gambling debt, but some people actually make a plan to go to Vegas to kill themselves. Well, they want to be away from their family because they don't want their daughter or their mother, whoever, to find them. So they go to Vegas. There's a problem with it happening in the hotels. There's even a special company that will clean the hotel rooms after there's been a suicide there. And so I was reading the article, and I just found the article really fascinating and interesting. And that's where I got the initial idea, because this one is about two people. One guy loses his son to a drug overdose, but he blames himself because he keeps denying that the kid has a problem, even though the wife is like, look, we need to get him into rehab. He is in trouble. No, he's just a kid. He's just, messing around. I did it when I was young. He'll be fine. Then he blames himself because the son does die. Then the other part of the story is a lady whose husband passes away, and she's taken care of him. And she feels like she has failed him because she didn't do a good enough job taking care of him. She wasn't really responsible for his death. But so anyway, it's the story of these two people. And they have, through a process, things happen to them. And they finally decide they have no hope. And they both decide to go to Vegas to kill themselves. But they meet in Vegas. And that's probably all I should say without giving away the whole ending to you. So.
No, I had actually never heard that. I knew about the companies because they're kind of everywhere, being in emergency services, but I did not know that about Vegas.
Uh-huh.
I know
it's even increased since the pandemic. That's kind of what this article was about, that they've even had more problems with that since the pandemic, that people have come there for that intent, that purpose.
Yeah. Wow. You'd think Vegas is a happy place, you know?
Right.
I know one of my friends is a paramedic there, and they have a problem with people will go into the hotels or the casinos and just lose total track of time. And then they'll come out and they'll go to drive the rental car and they'll fall asleep at an intersection. And they don't know what time it is, where they're at, what's going on. I know that's a problem, but I'd never heard this. I'll have to ask him about that. That's interesting. Well, I mean, not interesting, but I don't even know why people would think that way, but I don't know why people would think that way to start with. So,
Right.
Yeah.
well, your stories, like you said, are because of hope and resilience because of your past.
Correct. Yeah, the brain injury, that's where it all comes from, because, yeah, my life took a really different trajectory than I thought, because I loved teaching and I loved my teaching job. But then when I was injured in 2015, and I had a friend who was a nurse tell my husband really early in my recovery, I don't like 2 months or something, oh, you know, she'll never go back to teaching. But it took me years to accept that, and lots and lots of therapy, because I just had tough time believing that why won't I be able to go back? I knew it wasn't going to be right away, because I knew I couldn't even speak without like stuttering, and like I had such brain fog. But yeah, it took me years. Actually, I still think I have a note in the kitchen, because the note says, I will not be returning to teaching, because I had a therapist, and she actually said I should put that note up somewhere where I can see it every day, because I had a tough acceptance of that was like really a tough thing for me. But now I've kind of found this whole new direction, which I never would have gone on without this happening. So you never know what's going to happen, but sometimes what happens, I think even if it's something that seems bad, I think most things are meant to happen. So if it happens, there's always like a reason for it. So, I mean, I never would have gone on this writing journey if that had not happened. So
I can agree with you on that. It is hard to give up and say I'll never do something again. So I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you remember my story as a firefighter paramedic, but yeah, and I'll hear the fire trucks or see the fire trucks every day and think, you know, I could hop on that. I'm almost 60 years old. I couldn't hop on the damn fire truck. Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm 56, but I feel like I'm 60. So I will be 56 in a few days. Okay, let's get that straight. But
all right,
yeah.
Grandpa.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it is difficult. And it does take a long time. I mean, heck, I wouldn't have met these two beautiful ladies and been doing this if it hadn't been for it either. So things do happen. They say that you're never given more than you can stand. So I don't.
Right.
I don't know that I buy into that, because some days suck.
I get that.
But you make it through.
I do. I just call you up and harass you. So.
And I just go off on whoever you need me to go off on.
Yeah, I'll have my 3 fans do that later after the show in the other chat. But Donna,
you grow through what you go through. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
did you relocate or anything after this, or did you stay in the same area?
Close by. I taught in Rhode Island, so we lived in Rhode Island, had a house in Rhode Island. I had a lot of trouble getting treatment, thank you, workers' comp, because they were really difficult to deal with.
Yes.
And my husband and I, they just weren't giving me any treatment, and I knew like I needed, I mean, doctors would say you need physical therapy, you need speech therapy, and it was like denied. So my husband and I started investigating. We were just going to kind of do stuff on our own. And we found Spalding Rehabilitation, and that was in Massachusetts. And we already had a home in Massachusetts. See, now this is another way how things work out, that you don't know how they're going to work out, because we got the home at foreclosure, because we knew in a few years, in several years, we were going to retire to Massachusetts, to the beach, near the beach. So we had this house already in Massachusetts. Then we found Spalding Rehabilitation in Massachusetts. So what happened is I just moved up here earlier. When we started, my husband was still working in Rhode Island. So he would be here on the weekends. I would be here all the time. I could drive at that point, just not very far or very fast. So I would go to my appointments. I would go to my speech therapy and my physical therapy. Sometimes it was hard, but I would do the appointments up here in Massachusetts. And Spalding Rehabilitation was a really good system, and they really saved me. If I had stayed in Rhode Island, I don't think I would be as far along as I am, because I needed all the different modalities of treatment, and they weren't even offered there. So, Spalding saved me. So
go Spalding.
Wow.
Good. No, it's good. Well, the reason I asked that is because the initial thing for me was I wanted to run. I wanted out. I wanted away from here. I didn't want anything to do with Atlanta. I still don't, but now it's not. Now it's not as bad as it was. I mean, initially afterwards, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. Let's go back. Let's go back to Tennessee. Let's go to Virginia. Let's anywhere but here. Yeah, of course, then the housing market collapsed, and to buy a studio in Knoxville, Tennessee is $300,000. So yeah, that kind of got shot.
I've had friends. I have a lot of friends in Rhode Island, and they're like, "Are you ever going to come back? Are you ever going to come back here?" And I'll say, and sometimes I think I hurt their feelings without really meaning to. I'll be like, "Not if I can help it," because I just got better here. And I mean, I also live at the beach, so how much better can that be? I can take a walk, and the ocean is 500 steps away. So how you can't really beat that. But anyway, yeah, I have no desire to go back, and part of that is because of what happened there in Rhode Island. So no, I really don't want to go back. So
I don't blame you.
Close together in the scheme of things. People on the East Coast. I grew up in Kansas, so I have a little different perspective. They think it's far away, and I don't think 90 miles. I don't think that's really that far away. But yeah, people who if you're in Rhode Island, you're like, oh, it's too far, and it's like a 20-minute drive. So
No.
I grew up in Washington, D.C., where everything was an hour away. If you're going to cross the street, it's an hour away. And then when I went to Knoxville, if you lived on the other side of Knoxville, you can't be my friend. What? I'll never be over there. What the hell are you talking about? You're still on the other side of the ridge. So yeah, I get that. Well, I was going to ask, it's probably none of my business. Do you do your summer vacation in Vegas, I guess, every year?
Not summer, though, because it's too hot.
I'm sorry, winter.
Right,
I'm sorry.
It's her winter summer vacation.
Yeah, I had it flipped. Sorry, I had it flipped. That's what I meant.
Yeah, we usually do. We've done September before, but September can be surprisingly hot, so we kind of changed it to October. And then this last year we did 2 years ago we did December, and it was the weather was perfect. You could still sit outside with your coffee in the morning, and it was a little chilly, but it was just great. So yeah, so I think December is going to be our new month, because it's kind of perfect out there in December.
I bet spooky season in Vegas would be fun, though.
It would. It would. Mm-hmm.
Especially on Fremont Street.
Yes, yeah. My husband loves Fremont Street. I like it. It's cool.
I got to take a picture with Gene Simmons in a thong.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I can only imagine some of the outfits that everybody would be out there in.
Mm-hmm.
It's well known as Fremont Street.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We saw an old guy. This was last time in a green thong. Now this was in December, and it was on Fremont Street. Yeah, but he was wearing a green thong. It kind of went over his shoulders, and then
the Borat thong.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and he wasn't a young man either. He was definitely an older man.
Yeah.
Didn't really have the body shape for that, but I guess to each his own.
Never know what you'll see.
You only live once.
Right.
We had
stays in Vegas.
We had a client at my previous job who she's this little older lady that she has her group of church pals that they go travel around. And they went to Vegas. Uh-huh. They're all 60, 70-year-old women from little town in West Virginia. She brings us in her photo album of her being in Vegas, and I will never look at that woman the same. I love her. I gained so much respect for her from seeing that photo album. I was like, Gladys! And she's like, oh, yeah, you see that one? That was a good time. I was like, yeah, I can tell it was a good time.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
We were in Vegas in May, and it's not too bad in May.
No, we used to go when I worked. We still used to go there, and we would go like on February or like April vacation. So those were not bad months either. So
yeah, I'd like to go back. There's a lot more to see.
It's an interesting thing.
There's a lot of museums now, because we were thinking we would do a museum day this time, because I mean, we've done other things. We've done like the search shows. If you have too much open time, sometimes you'll gamble, and that's maybe not the best use of time, because you'll just
No.
than you think. So it was like, let's do a museum day. So I've been trying to get that together. So
Yeah, I lost $8 and was like, I'm done. I don't like losing money.
I like to walk around and look at people. It gives me ideas for stories and stuff. So I would almost rather watch people than gamble. My husband follows some people who gamble and do Vegas online, and he has this theory that you need to play the high dollar slots if you're going to win big. But also, if you don't win, guess what happens? You're going to lose big. But he's like, no, you got to play the high dollars. So he's like, okay, come on, try it. Look, it's a $10 machine. So you put $10 in, right, for one pull. So I put $10 in and I lost, and I'm like, no, okay, I'm done with this.
I'm done now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it would be worth it for the trip just of people watching.
I love to people watch. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite parts. Yeah, just walk around and see what different people are doing.
One of the pilots I was with taught me that you could go to, I'll call it a bar, but you could have a cigar, and as long as you were gambling, all the free drinks. And so
they got penny slots there?
Oh yeah, I think before I ended up leaving once with like $200. They were all mad at me, but if you play real slow, it's fun. So plus you can talk to intermingle. So yeah, like because there are some interesting people. And then one night the pilots decided to get the idea that we'll never be this close to Area 51. So let's hop in a rental car and drive. It's a little bit further than the pilots thought it was. So I was asleep in the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
But we did get to see it. So the Facebook user says, I would love to be able to go to Vegas. Well, Donna, you have the first invitation when we have our Vegas show, because one day we're going to make it big, and that's our goal, is to have a Vegas show.
Oh, okay.
You will be our first guest.
All right. Oh, I will do that in a heartbeat.
You will probably already have it booked before we get there. So. I'm going to rely on you for tips. So.
Okay. We need a list of all the best restaurants, best place to go shopping, best souvenir shop.
Well, there's so many good restaurants.
Best Elvis impersonator.
I told my wife for our reunion, that's what we should do. Go to Vegas and get married by Elvis. And she's like,
I was going to say, and we'll probably need the best chapel of which we can send fans who want to go get married in Vegas, where we need to send them.
We did that too, We got well, we had been married for 16 years, but we decided to do like a bet. And I said, okay, if I win, and now I'm not a big player, right? So I don't play like the big bucks or anything. If I win $1,000 on any machine, you have to remarry me, right? My husband never thought that was going to happen, because I don't play dollars, I play 25 cents, or if they have less than that. he never thought it was going to happen, and it happened. I won like a Wheel of Fortune machine, and you couldn't bank it. You couldn't add it all up and okay, that came to 1,000. You had to do it all at once. And I actually, it actually happened. I won 1,000. So we went to it was Excalibur. We went to Excalibur. We didn't have like the Elvis impersonator or anything, but we went to Excalibur. They have a wedding chapel there. We have a video, and yeah, we got remarried in Vegas.
I would love to see your video because my friend Mark actually worked at Excalibur.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So it would be cool to see if he's in the video. He's been there a long time now.
We always stay at New York, New York. That's like our favorite casino. So we've stayed there for years. So that's why we did Excalibur, because it was really close to New York, New York.
Did you have to drag him to it? Or was he willing?
Well, that was the bet that if that happened, and when he was really surprised when I won. So yeah, no, except we really should have thought out our clothing more, because everyone laughs at like what we were wearing, because we didn't really plan like fancy dresses or anything. So when I showed my stepdaughter, she was like, "Okay, Dad looks like he's going golfing because he's got a polo shirt on," and I did have like a white jeans and like a white shirt. So I'm like, okay, I'll wear white. And then she was like, and you look like you just got off work at the nursing home.
Oh my gosh.
Because we had casual clothes. We didn't have anything fancy.
It's Vegas. Come on.
That's it with the memories. So that's great. How many years ago was that?
That was, oh wow. That was before my brain injury. 12, 13, around 12 or 13 years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, you'll have to make another bet with him this time when you go to Vegas. So, or do you think you'll fall for it twice?
I don't know if he'll fall for it twice.
I think I would try it again just to see if I could win the $1,000.
Right. That only happened that once, mind you. It's not like it happens every time.
Yeah.
I'll have to change it if I can lose $1,000.
Oh, it might be insulting to him. If I lose $1,000, I got to get hitched to you again. So, you're like, no, I want to keep my money. So.
Well, just say, so it's after the brain injury. So now you have to have it again.
Right, because I do forget things. So yeah, I don't remember.
So you want to be able to fully remember this time. Exactly. So just guilt him into it.
I don't know if I should ask this or not, but my wife had a brain aneurysm and they had to go in and joke around. They used Waffle House utensils and moved her brain around and, did all the surgery and stuff. But afterwards, I told the neurosurgeon, I asked him dead serious, straight to his face, Chris. He knew me from coming in off the street as a paramedic and stuff. I said, while you were in there, did you forget to turn the bitch switch off? And the look on his face. And my wife was like, yeah,
and you wonder, and you wonder why she tries to smother you with her pillows and hit you with her rocks.
It's a tough life. So.
Because things are starting to add up that maybe you kind of ask for it.
Well, we'll have to talk about this. Therapy is helping me through most of it. So this whole train though has kind of got me thrown off, but we'll talk about that on the other show. So you've got your book published. Mickey is helping you get it out there. Yes. What's the easiest way for people to find you?
I have a website. It's author, AUTHOR, Donna M Cramer.com.
Okay. I was going to say you're going to be one of these that's as a teacher with the punctuation and grammar and everything's perfect. So, Donna, I don't remember if we asked you last time, since we were doing the public safety show. I don't think we did. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences?
I was thinking about that because, like, actually, Mickey asked me to think about that, and so I did. And yes, I do. Yes, I did.
Ooh,
It's about my cat, actually.
okay.
So
Okay.
I had two cats. I have two more now, but these two cats are deceased at this point in time. But this cat, CJ, had congestive heart failure. And this was here, right in Massachusetts, and after my brain injury. And CJ had congestive heart failure, was very sick for like a period of months, was eating baby food, got weaker and weaker. And he did pass here in the house. And thankfully, it was on the weekend when my husband was home, and we like buried him like right out in the side yard. And then for this story to make sense, you have to understand where I am. This is like a beach community. So there's tons of people around here in the summer. Then there's some people in the fall and in the spring. The dead of winter, there is nobody here. Now, there are a few people here in just the last few years. This was several years ago, and there was actually nobody here in the dead of winter except for me by myself during the week, because my husband was still working then and he was going back to Rhode Island to work. There was one other guy that lived over one street. That was the only people that were in the neighborhood. The other houses were, some people would come on the weekend sometimes, but it was also in January, so it was very cold. So a lot of the older people had gone to do the snowbird thing. So they were in Florida. So there was really no one around at all. I didn't really mind the solitude. Some people were like, oh, didn't you think that was creepy? And I never really thought it was like creepy at all. But anyway, now CJ had passed, the cat had passed on Sunday. My husband leaves because he's going to work for the week. This is Monday evening around 11 o'clock. All of a sudden, I hear something very strange at the back door. Like I just hear like it's something or somebody out there. Almost like there was like kind of like a scritching and scratching at the door. And so I started creeping forward, but I'm thinking, well, I don't want to go too close because if somebody's out there, I don't really want them to like see me inside. I had my phone with me and it was like, do I need to call 911? I don't want to overreact and be, like the crazy lady that called and like it was the wind, but it was not windy at all. It was very like a very quiet night. So, but I heard outside on the back door, this kind of funny scritching, scratching sound. And then I heard, it didn't quite sound like a regular meow, but kind of like a more like a moan. So it was like, is that an animal sound or is that like a person? So I kind of stayed hidden where I could see the door, but they wouldn't be able to see me. I wasn't that close. Now, about that time, my other cat came from wherever he was downstairs. And you know how animals are more attuned to things that are going on than we are? So first, this cat is just walking in the kitchen, and I'm watching him. And then all of a sudden, he kind of goes down and does like one of those belly walks, like they do when they're like scared or they know something's there. All of a sudden, he goes down into the belly walk. And he keeps going and he walks right up to the door and like he sniffs at the door and he's like looking at the door. And then he's like kind of on his belly, and then his tail, you know how their tail gets all bushy. His tail got really, really bushy. So it really seemed like there was something there. The other thing to remember is that there aren't a lot of like animals around. I mean, there are some wild animals, not a lot, but since there was no one there, there's not a lot of people don't let their cats out or their dogs because there are coyotes. So I guess you could say if you wanted to get really, it must have been a coyote, but I don't know that it was. But anyway, not a lot of cats or dogs just there's leash laws anyway, but not range around. There weren't even people there anyway. So where would this animal have come from? But the cat is really acted like there's somebody there. And so then I just stood there for a little while. It didn't seem like anyone was trying to get in. It didn't seem like it was a person. So, and then I would hear every so often, just kind of this weird noise. So I don't know how long I was standing by the corner there, like 30 minutes or something. And then all of a sudden I didn't hear it anymore. So it was like, okay, I think whatever it is, it's gone away. I'm not going to like overreact. All the doors are locked. I think it's fine. So then when I talked to him like on the phone the next night or something. Now, first you have to know my husband is very, very logical. He's not like a paranormal guy in any shape or form. There's always a logical answer for everything. It can only be this. It couldn't be anything else. And I told him this story, and I was like, maybe I'm crazy, but I heard it was a weird it wasn't really a meow. It was like a weird noise. And the first thing he said to me, it was the ghost of CJ, and he wanted to get back in.
Wow. Did you let him in?
Didn't open the door.
That's crazy. Well, you're right. The animals are more in tune to it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess during the winter, there's probably not even like a lot of moose or anything like that up there.
We're so close to the beach. There's some fox. You may see a random fox every now and then, but there's really not a lot of wildlife this close to the beach. So,
well, and the coyote.
There are some coyotes, but not.
But a coyote sound is very distinct.
Exactly. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah. When we lived in Rhode Island, we had like 28 acres of land. We used to have coyotes that would come all the time, and then they'd kill something and they'd be in the back because we had a pond back there. Yeah. So I kind of do know what a coyote sounds like. So this noise was like a noise I had never heard before because it wasn't really a true meow. But no, did it sound like a coyote? No, and I've never had a coyote come to the door before, though.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
And I know fox can make some weird noises too, but it would be very odd for a fox to come up to the door also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Coyotes usually aren't alone, and foxes are very smart animals. So, yeah, I doubt it would have been a fox, though. Only trash panda, maybe at best, but that is
making
weird.
A noise like that.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I've never heard them make noises.
Oh, a trash panda? They can make all kinds of noises. Oh yeah. I have one.
Oh, unless they were out there mating.
A friend of mine has. I'll remind me to share it with you. They were fighting in the woods, a bunch of raccoons, and you hear a couple deep, low, guttural growls. The fighting kind of stops. And then you hear it pick back up, and then you hear like this real deep growl. The recording gets real deep, and all of a sudden you hear the fighting just go crazy, and hears pop, dead silent.
Wow.
He found the next day where a raccoon had somehow trajected itself sideways into a tree.
Oh.
Bigfoot. That's what. That's his, he was whatever it wanted, whatever Bigfoot had, and he was like no part of it. He's like, I've warned you, get up. Whap. So,
just tossed it up and punted it
and
like a
at
football.
At that point, I'd have been like, all right, tent, everything, bye, out of here. But yeah. Well, how much snow do you get up there close to the beach? Do you get a lot?
No, we got much more snow in Rhode Island. So what happens is we will get some snow. We've had a blizzard before where we've got like 12 inches maybe. But here's the thing. There's so much salt in the air. So we're so close to like the salt water that it melts very, very quickly. So you can have a big snowstorm. That is possible, enough to shovel and everything. But yeah, and then in a few days it will be gone because of all the salt.
Mm.
I need to talk to my son about moving over that way from Vermont. So.
Yeah.
They're already cold. I guess it's probably chilly up where you're at. So
it's nice right now. It's really nice here. It's like it was like, I don't know, 68 degrees. It's kind of like perfect. We're not really into jacket. It's not really jacket weather yet, but you can like go out and it's and you feel cool. So no, it's kind of perfect weather. Well, they always say that's the best kept secret on the Cape. Come to the Cape in September and October, because of course everybody piles in July, and it's hot and very crowded and you can't get down the street. But yeah, they say best kept secret. Go to the Cape in September or October.
Nice. Well, I've been to Vermont in the winter and the summer, and it's chilly both times. So, but you're welcome to come to Atlanta. It's 77 right now. So.
Oh, see, that's
and hey,
I am 91.
You won't have to bring your Flonase. The air's good.
Yeah. Right now. Oh yeah, but I'll update y'all on that after the show. We've had a chemical accident near my house, so my skin is probably going to melt off. Donna, before we let you get out of here, you need to tell all of our FM radios where they can find you, find your stuff. Oh, we did it. You did it to your author website. I'm sorry.
My books are available on both barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com and also Kirkhouse Publishers.
Yes, it's on its way to my P.O. box now.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you very much.
Cheyenne does this during the show. I must have cost her a fortune. She'll be like, oh,
just like,
got that one already.
gotta have that. All right.
Well, when your next book comes out, you're going to have to come back.
Okay, great.
And tell us all about it because we enjoy having you.
Oh, thank you.
And I have told many people about your book for the children for 911. So
great.
Hopefully it's helped, but just because I think it's such a great thing. So, and it's always nice to be able to teach the kids something. But now that you're breaking free a little bit, you're going to have the novel. So science fiction maybe in the future?
I'm not really a big science fiction fan. And
we can do science fiction. We can do that. That's fine.
I might know more about that.
We'll create our own genre.
That's good. You have to write what you know, and I don't know that I know enough. Maybe I know more about sinuses than I know enough about science fiction. Now I can't say it. Science fiction to like what?
You can write a cat horror story. There you go.
I could. Right. I'll use CJ. He'll be the
example. No, so her brand is hope and resilience. So Ghost of CJ helps somebody else.
That's right. That's right. I have another idea for Lester too. I have another Lester Lion that is just kind of like an idea in my head right now. It's right now it's tentatively titled, but I need to change this. Lester Lion loses grandpa, because I want to write about death for young children. Yes. But it can't really be called that, because what happened was several times when I was teaching, I would have children are so literal, they don't really understand like loses. Like there was one little boy, and unfortunately his mother suffered a miscarriage. So they came home from the hospital and they said, "We're so sorry, Sam, Mommy lost the baby." And he became very angry because he thought that
why did you lose the baby?
Like you lost your shoe or something. So how can you lose the baby? Well, go and find the baby right now. So they don't really compute that because it's not literal enough. So I kind of want to address that, because we're really good as adults. We want to use euphemisms because, you don't want to say death. It seems like too harsh. So I want to try to address that. I have a long ways to go on that, but that's what I'm thinking. So.
Well, having been a paramedic in the field, I can tell you it's hard to explain. So, it's hard to make that notification to the family, period, but especially when they're younger. So, and then during COVID here in the South, we would just leave them there at the house until the funeral home came, because there was literally nowhere to take the patients, the deceased. And so, yeah, that would be a great idea. Man, it'd been great to hand out. I remember one kid, I just picked him up. It was the middle of the night, cold. I just picked him up. I had my fireman turnout pants on. Let's go get the fire truck. Took him outside because the police were at that point doing all their thing and everything. And and they had no idea. Yeah, like you said, they think that you literally can't use that word. Yeah, and then
I wouldn't have thought about that.
And we couldn't get into religious topics or anything because of our jobs, so we'd be like, they're just not here. There's no real easy way to. So yeah. If you need technical tips, let me know. I've had to do that a couple times. So.
Okay, great. I may use you as a resource because I need more. I need more resources because it's just like the germ of an idea right now. But
it's a very good one though. A very good one, and you're talented with the book, with the 911 book. Very talented. So yes, please do that one.
Okay. Thank you.
That will help you. You can send me a little paw print signed one. So.
Okay.
Not from CJ. Not from CJ. All right, Donna. Well, I promise you I'd only keep you about an hour. I really do want you to come back when you get your next book.
Okay, I certainly will.
And,
I enjoyed it very much.
Well, we enjoy having you. And
we want to hear about the Vegas trip.
Okay, I can tell you about that too.
If you go, what is it, parachuting with Elvis? You know, they do all those. Or maybe
Right.
it's just a movie. I
Yeah, I
don't know.
don't
Go
think that will-
parasailing with Elvis.
You could, yeah. I don't think that'll happen.
The song catches a resistance. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Just picture. Never mind. All right, Donna, thank you for your time. As always, you are a pleasure. We've enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon with the next book.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be looking forward to it. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, Donna. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you,
And
Donna.
we'll tell Mickey to keep you on our list. So
All
we
right,
thank
sounds
you.
good. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. See you soon, Donna.
Bye-bye.
I love her.
Yes, she's amazing.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea with the other book too. I would have never thought of that. And she
could
did so well with
come-
the
She could come out with like a whole series of those.
and it would be great. And Texas, I didn't I didn't forget about you over here. Just sometimes I just don't put the comments up because well, sometimes you guys scare them off after the artist that you all made go off the deep end.
I
think
got a
you-
kick out of sinus fiction boogers from
Yeah.
Mars. That's hilarious.
We love you guys. We love all of you. So we're not trying to ignore you. So by any means, and we appreciate you all because, well, without you all, we'd probably be boring. So
And whoever thinks that I'm letting Wendell take me to the chapel, I will get the taser back out. Okay, I will get the taser back out.
wow, you kept it close, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You was afraid Wendell was going to sneak up on the back porch.
I've already had to run him off twice since Monday.
Do tell. Well, do you want to say that for the misfits?
I mean, we done kicked him out from under the porch. I'm not letting him move into any one of my closets.
This could be like Santa dressed as Santa and trying to slide down the chimney or something.
Good thing there ain't no chimney.
Just move their nose. Wendell will move something. So you were, and I'm like I said, I was still a fine art with learning. So there you go. And see, there you need a vacation in Texas.
All right.
Depending on what part of Texas, it's kind of hot there now.
Well, let's see. So I've got Canada. I've got Oklahoma. I can add Texas to the list now.
Well, that's kind of like you're going in thirds. You just need a passport. You'll be set. But you can't leave me, so I'm keeping you.
You're stuck.
Well, I'm not staying.
I call
She'll be back.
dibs. I got dibs. I'm
I
going
have to have
dibs
Amanda.
on
I have to have Amanda come save me.
it. You would.
I'll be there.
All right. So next
If,
week,
we don't end up in jail together somewhere.
Yeah.
you know,
Chris,
I can
Chris, where
see
do I
that.
need to? Chris, where do I need to add to the list then?
Okay, Chris, where's the list? Oh, he says it's nice north part of Dallas. Oh, they got the Cowboys there. Sorry, no, can't. So
Oh, God. No, Glenn.
Chris, do you put pineapple on your pizza?
no,
I think he doesn't actually. I feel like we had this discussion
yeah.
during the 5-hour show of Bobby's drunkenness.
Drunken
I'm pretty sure that did get brought up. Oh, Chicago.
Yeah, remember he's
Okay.
Chicago with the pizza. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's the Windy City. It's a little cold up there right now. So, well, it's getting cold up there. So,
I'll
yeah,
bring a jacket.
a light jacket. Well, next Wednesday on our show we have famous John Urbis. He wrote a book called Goldilocks and the Three Bigfoot.
Is this gonna be another? Because that sounds like it's gonna be another.
I don't think so because he also Facebook user loves pineapple on your pizza. or
Ew.
something.
Get.
Because he's also doing children's coloring books. So I
Okay.
think they're probably safe. Probably. I don't
We'll
know.
see.
He sent me some artwork. So yeah, we'll see.
Because, I mean, if he didn't have the idea, I can give him an idea.
Is it good artwork or good artwork?
Oh gosh.
I'm so glad you're back, Amanda. I've missed you.
I need to message Valerie.
And
Give her
then-
another idea.
And then you're going to love this one I found. It's on the schedule. You should have seen it. But science fiction furry author.
Oh. Okay.
So,
Thank
better be ready for
God.
that one. Thank God.
Did you request them to come in costume?
I don't know. She might. So I was told she doesn't do very many interviews, and then I was lucky she watched one of our shows. Don't ask me how, and she agreed
Okay.
to come on. So
I'm ready for it.
She realizes she's not coming on the Saturday night show, right?
yes, she is well aware she's not going on a Saturday night show. She did not see this. Well, I mean, she may have seen the Saturday night show, but yeah.
No, it was not specified which show she saw.
Right? One year at the Scarefest convention, they had the furry convention going on as well. So that was very interesting.
I get it's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
So we will have a Bigfoot children's author following up with the furry science fiction. So we're staying in a good genre.
So I'm wondering though, like I'm gonna have a lot of questions. So is Goldilocks deciding on which bed is the least smelly?
I don't know.
This will get interesting.
Yeah, I've got questions.
Yeah.
Questions. We've got answers. So any idea on what's going on for our Saturday show yet?
I had an idea, then I lost it.
Well,
Is that
You
the
can-
title of this show or?
You can blame the Jack Daniels for that.
well, it will be my birthday, so I'll probably it won't be my birthday till Sunday, but we'll probably be going till Sunday. So,
Oh,
so
we'll have to think of something then.
I would say you could go on Facebook and find all my friends and give them the link and roast me, but I would have control and get drunk and just turn the feed off. So you might be best to have Brenda run that show.
Okay. Amanda, we got to get together for ideas. I'm gonna need another brain for this one.
Hopefully Aaron
Okay.
will be feeling better too. Yes, she was. Somebody asked, I'll way back in the comments where I find all these people. It's partially me just rambling through the internet, and sometimes they find me. We've got an agent now. I guess, I guess we could kind of call Mickey our agent because he sends us so many people. So many great people. And we've had some great science fiction authors just on our own and comic book artists. So yeah. Speaking of which, here's an exhibition coming to a comic book store this weekend of rare comic book art from Jack Kirby.
I'm not a fan of Jack Kirby.
Not either, but you won't get a chance to see it that often. So,
No,
I'm
thank
probably
you.
going to do that Saturday. If I can talk the wife into doing it. If not, I guess I'll stay here and play with toy trains or something. So,
I mean, let us know if you find the midget.
yeah, I'm looking for that sucker. So, all right, Amanda, you will be back next week. And, we got a show tomorrow night, too. We have to figure out what time we're going to be on. So,
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go really late on TV.
that's true. Will you be able to stay up late, Amanda?
We're
Come
not
on,
late
you-
enough to get on
you
here and
just-
talk about it.
you
I'm
just
like,
read
are we
it.
Are we gonna talk about this on Monday?
Oh, Cheyenne, do you have to work the next day?
No.
Friday? Well, I guess you could drop in and start, and then by then Cheyenne will be liquored up and can finish this off. So
Let's see how much I'm yelling into the camera about Cam still being here by then.
why they had the chance? They had the chance. The feeds are boring, so boring right now. They're just boring.
Yeah.
And once Chemo's gone, they won't even be singing songs.
You're the one that wants him gone.
It'll just be Cam sitting there staring off into space.
He's like a piece of furniture. I mean, at least Chemo does. He tries to play games and he tries to do stuff to the point of being annoying. But yeah, once he's gone, then we'll just have Cam that's the lawn furniture. So,
Chris, there's
got-
actually a very funny picture of me now that exists out there of the face Angela made for Crazy Eyes. Yeah.
did somebody screenshot you?
No, I was at a celebration of life for someone, and a kid walked up and said, "Make a silly face," and that's the face I made. And she went, "Snap."
Please tell me you weren't the preacher for this. You were. Oh my goodness.
That's the first face that came to my mind was that face Angela made.
Oh my goodness.
That's great.
Apparently, that's my new silly face.
I love it. Oh, don't be surprised if some of the fans here don't screen capture it. So,
Right? It'll be all over the place.
because we've
Oh,
screen
excuse
captured
me,
Andy already several times.
I've already got memes to make tonight.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda.
Welcome.
It's gonna keep you up all night and keep you busy. I guess I need to start doing a show art for that. I'll say Aloha Chemo. That'll be what ours will be. So that'll be it. That's it. So all right. Well, I'm gonna what? Oh yeah. I just saw them.
No,
I'll have
I'm
to
just
find that picture.
no, I'm just thinking about this picture that Amanda sent me. The first thing that popped into my head to put under it was diabetes.
The sugars. The sugars.
I mean, do you not feel like that fits, Amanda?
Totally.
Uh,
Oh my gosh.
You too. What am I gonna do with you? We need Erin back. Get her in the group too. Holy cow! So, Amanda, is everything cleaned up after the storm up there with you guys? You got power and roads are all open and everything's good.
Yeah, there's still a lot of trees down. I haven't even walked down to the river yet. So I don't know what's down there. I heard trees falling all around us.
Wow.
hopefully Bigfoot will have cleaned him up by then.
Right, just toss them on into the river. Because if we have a lot down on the river, I mean, we already had a lot from the last storm. We haven't even cleaned up yet. We still have about 10 trees down before this even happened. So I have to walk down there and see what's going on.
Well, you're still better than some. So
Yes.
South.
my house is still standing.
One of my friends just got his power back on this afternoon at like 2 or 3. And
Wow.
he's like, I can go to sleep now. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I've been staying up pretty much the whole time because it's just him and his wife. And, it's gotten rough in Augusta. I mean, like, people are getting crazy, like going to the store. And what do you mean you won't take credit card? And well, I'll just take it and just lots of bad things. So He's like, I've been up pretty much since the storm. I'm like, holy cow, go get
Oh
some
my
sleep.
gosh.
So I can only imagine. So yeah, so it's just starting to return to normal for some people, but for others, it'll never return to normal. So
Mm-hmm. So
Goodness.
many
At least
houses
Ross is
gone.
okay.
yeah, he's having to stay in his van for a while, but we can, he's a man down by
He
the
can
he's in a van down by
he
the
can
river.
live in a van down by the river.
Down by the river. There you go. All right. Well, we will figure out what time that we're going to have the show tomorrow, and we'll put it up. And it'll probably be half hour after the show ends. And I think that's 10, right?
10 or 10:30, I saw.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, Augusta, it's going to take them a long time to clean that up. Like, probably the better part of a year. It's pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, everybody, we appreciate you as always. Thank you. And for our fans at WDJY and WRFN, thank you. We will see you next week. Bye. What was that wave? Bye. Oh, beautiful girl.